Welcome to the jungle indeed, home of the Cincinnati Bengals, where it was raining earlier today. The skies have cleared for the moment, but the forecast still holds for thunderstorms as we progress later this afternoon. The New England Patriots have won the toss and they will receive. Mike Nugent getting set to kick it away. And Brandon Bolden and Leon Washington are deep for New England. The Patriots unbeaten in 4 starts, and we're underway. From his own end zone, this is Leon Washington. And Washington cut down short of the 15-yard line. Cedric Pierman makes the tackle, and Tom Brady, a sparkling job so far this season, considering the receivers he has missed. 7 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, 52 straight games with a touchdown pass. And he will get started from his own 13-yard line. Garrett punt in the backfield, and he gets the handoff and makes his way across the 15 to about the 17-yard line. New England offensive line that protects Brady, the most senior left guard Logan Mankins in his 9th year from Fresno State. And number 80, Danny Amendola, will be back in the lineup, but he is not starting. Kenbrell Tompkins doing a terrific job in his first season from the University of Cincinnati. And there's Amendola waiting his chance on the sideline. He's missed the last 3 weeks. Going down back at the 7-yard line, courtesy of Geno Atkins.
Wow, Tom Brady going play action, has no idea. He turns his back to the line of scrimmage, and when he turns around, what a surprise as Geno Atkins gets in there unblocked. I don't know if there was some confusion on the Patriots offensive line, but Tom Brady's shocked. That's the one thing with play action. You turn your back to the line of scrimmage. Whoa, what a surprise when he wheeled.
Geno Atkins now 3.5 sacks on the year. Danny Amendola in the lineup and in motion at the top of your screen. Screen. Bolden brought down at the 14-yard line, and New England will punt.
Well, what a series for the Cincinnati defense, courtesy of Geno Atkins. And that is a rude welcome to Cincinnati for number 12. But no shock that Geno Atkins is the guy. He might be the most disruptive defensive tackle in the game today.
Ryan Allen kicks it away to Adam Jones, and we have a penalty marker flag. Jones doesn't fool anybody as he goes down at about the 35-yard line.
That was a curious setup by Jones.
Our referee today is Gene Steratore.
During the kick, holding, return team number 27, 10-yard penalty from the end of the kick, first down, Cincinnati.
Ray Kirkpatrick is guilty of the hold. And there's Andy Dalton, quarterback for the Bengals. And no one, including Dalton, happy with his performance in last week's loss to Cleveland, in which the Bengals failed to score a touchdown. He vows he will be better today.
Now, you know, some of that, give credit to Cleveland. They are a very good defensive football team. But Andy didn't throw the ball very well. He missed some open guys. He underthrew, overthrew. He has vowed to be better today.
This is Ben Jarvis. Green Ellis with a hole on the right side. Out across the 30, out to the 35, and a first down. Up front for Cincinnati, the terrific left tackle Andrew Whitworth still working his way back into shape after off-season knee surgery. And the Bengals need big plays from their big play wide receiver A.J. Green, who has 3 TD catches in his 3rd season out of Georgia.
The excitement level pretty high for Ben Jarvis. Green Ellis playing against his former team, the Patriots, where he had a lot of good years.
Green Ellis once again. The Patriot defense, how will it fare with the loss of big Vince Wilfork Rookie Joe Villano starts for him at tackle. The linebackers, they expect Gerard Mayo to be all over the field. He has chalked up 100-plus tackles each of his first 5 seasons. And in the secondary, cornerback Aqib Talib tied for the NFL lead with 4 interceptions, expecting to shadow A.J. Green much of the day. That is number 72, Joe Villano. This is Green Ellis once again across the 40 to about the 42. Brandon Spikes with the tackle.
And this is exactly what Cincinnati needs to do. They need to come right at the interior of this New England defensive line. There's Villano. You see him, number 72. He gets ridden out of the hole, doesn't come off the block real quickly, and positive yardage. But, you know, Andy Dalton, their quarterback, is under fire. Vince Wilfork missing for New England. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out it would behoove Cincinnati to run the ball.
Third down, that's exactly what they do, and he will come up short of a first down by about a yard at the 44-yard line. Gerard Mayo making the tackle.
At first blush, it looked like that was a big enough hole that it was going to afford Cincinnati a first down, but a lot of credit to Gerard Mayo. Boy, did he close that thing off in a hurry, and that was a fine tackle.
Julian Edelman, the best punt return average in NFL history, 13 yards per return.
Is that pretty good?
Not bad. He will take this one inside his own 5-yard line. And once again, Brady will start at about his own 13, maybe a yard better, the 14-yard line. So Brady and the Patriot offense back to work for the second time this afternoon when we come back to Paul Brown Stadium. 10:39 to play in the first quarter. Brady back to work on offense. Boy, in his 4 career games against the Bengals, the Patriots averaging better than 36 points a game. And this is LeGarrette Blount straight ahead across the 15 to about the 16-yard line. The Bengals 4-3 defense up front. Number 96, Carlos Dunlap, overtaken for the team lead in sacks. Now Geno Atkins now has 3.5. At linebacker, number 92, 9 years in a Steeler uniform. A little strange to see James Harrison in the Bengals colors. And at cornerback, Adam Jones starts for injured Leon Hall, and we'll see how big an impact that makes in the secondary. On 2nd and 8. That pass across the 20 and out to about the 22-yard line. And the catch is made by Kenbrell Tompkins, averaging over 17 yards a catch this season.
This ball arrived at Kenbrell Tompkins with a little bit of velocity. Listen to it land. It bounced off his chest, and Tompkins actually handled it on the rebound off his own chest plate. That was a muscled-up throw from Tom.
On 3rd and 2 now. Brandon Bolden in the backfield. And Brady under pressure and goes down again. Second sack of the day for the Cincinnati Bengals. This one courtesy of Wallace Gilberry.
Well, Gilberry comes off the edge. Wallace Gilberry, he's not hiding. It's not that you don't know where he is. Here he is right there in the down stance. And take a look at it. The inside blitzer is picked up, but by the time Nate Solder turns to the outside, it's way too late. And for the second time in this very brief amount of time that we've been playing, Tom Brady goes down.
Second straight 3 and out for the Patriots. This is Jones. Across the 45 to about the 47 or 48-yard line. 8:51 to play in the first quarter, and the Bengals riding a very good defense early in the ball game.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by Bud Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
$8:51 to play here in the first quarter. Marvin Lewis told us yesterday they've got to get physical and get back to AFC North football.
Well, they're not going to get field position like this every possession. They better do something with it.
The outstanding rookie Giovanni Bernard is in at running back for the first time today. This is Bernard. trying to turn the corner and won't get to do it. Forward progress will be marked just about the 45-yard line. Fantasy football fans, check out CBSSports.com Player Challenge, a new 4-week game with a cash prize in every league. See rules and sign up at CBSSports.com/challenge. Andy Dalton is yet to put the ball in the air in 5 snaps. Figures he will here on 2nd and 12. Dalton under pressure, can't get away. A penalty marker is thrown in the backfield as Rob Ninkovich is in on the quarterback. And this will be a hold on the Bengals.
Holding, offense, number 77. Penalty is declined. 3rd down.
That's Andrew Whitworth.
Yeah, Whitworth gets beat to the inside, and that's what initially broke up. Here's Andrew Whitworth. Watch the move to the inside that he's unable to. I think that's Chandler Jones, and that's just a good rip to the inside. You can see Jones hanging on to Dalton's ankle.
Yeah.
Whitworth has got to stuff that. That was an outstanding inside rip by Chandler Jones.
3rd and 20. Dalton. Far side of the field to Jermaine Gresham, and Gresham has run out of bounds at about the 45, well short of a first down by Kyle Arrington.
Wow, 2 disappointing possessions for the Bengals offensively. 2 chances at really outstanding field position. Your defense can't be getting it done any better than they did. What they've done to Brady on his first 2 possessions, and this is a New England win to get out of this, to get the ball again on their 3rd possession, 0-0.
Edelman track this one to the sideline and watch it sail out of bounds. And this one will be spotted at about the 12-yard line. Familiar territory early in this game for Brady.
Greg, I'm sure Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach of the Patriots, gave his guys a talking to when they were over on the sidelines, because that just 2 errors allow just a wide open rusher to come at and drop Tom Brady. Brady's going, hey, I'd at least like a chance to look downfield.
From the 12. LeGarrette Blount breaking tackles and out to the 22 and a first down. Looks close to a first down. Let's get our first NFL Today update of the day. KB and Shannon.
Shannon, and opportunistic special teams.
Coming into this game, JB, the Titans had not turned the football over. Damian Williams was blocking, caroms off his foot, into the end zone, recovered by Marcus Cooper. 7-0 Chiefs over the Titans.
Hey, Greg, thank you for lending us Dan Deardorff for the pregame show. Back to Greg and Dan.
You're entirely welcome, JB. I'll expect a check by Tuesday.
You get the check?
Sure. LeGarrette Blount out to about the 29.
Well, New England has had 2 prior possessions, and neither one of them worked out very well for Tom Brady. An unblocked Geno Atkins drops him, and then if that wasn't enough, how about Wallace Gilbert? He comes in unblocked, and Tom Brady's going, this has got to get better. They did have a good run here by LeGarrette Blount. Broke a tackle on that run, showing that he is every bit of the 250 pounds that he's listed.
Watch it!
Outside 3, quick pass to the outside. This is Tompkins, and Tompkins with a first down at about the 34-yard line.
Well, how about this little bit of agility by Kenbrell Tompkins here? That's Pac-Man Jones comes up, check it out. He just got so low that he just got his weight out over his knees too far that he wasn't able to maintain his balance. He'd have been good for another 5 or 10 yards after that if he'd have broken free.
Brady throwing and dropped. Absolute real estate in front of Brandon Bolden. He couldn't hold on. Wide open real estate.
Well, this was a slow developing screen, but it was there. You can see Dan Connolly out front already on his way downfield. Tompkins is fronted up on his man. He had the block. And I don't think that was a wet football issue at all. That was just a drop.
Patriots tied for second most drops in the NFL coming into this game. This is Bolden. And Bolden wrapped up at about the 37 by Geno Atkins.
Well, we're going to see Brandon Bolden in the lineup today along with LeGarrette Blount because Stephen Ridley is inactive today. He injured his knee in their game against Atlanta last week. Shane Vereen, their other primary back, he's on the injured reserve list, designated to return because of that broken wrist that he suffered in the opener at Buffalo. So Bolden and Blount are going to get the majority of the work today.
Third and 7 for Brady and the Patriots. Brady with time, throwing and underthrown, almost intercepted at midfield by Adam Jones.
Boy, Tom Brady's pocket wasn't exactly a work of art as it collapsed in around him. Let's look specifically over here at left tackle Nate Solder. He's going to get driven right back. He gives a lot of ground, and Tom Brady not able to step into that throw as his line was getting pushed back towards him.
Brandon Tate watches it sail out of bounds close to the 15-yard line. 4:26 to play in the first quarter of a scoreless game in Cincinnati, and the Bengals back on offense. Although they've yet to take advantage of it, Cincinnati's had the advantage, and where they start their drives, New England has begun at their own 12, their own 13, and their own 14-yard line in 3 possessions.
Well, they're looking at a long field now after a couple great starts.
Dalton throwing this side, complete. Tyler Eifert, the rookie tight end out of Notre Dame, by Devin McCourty, his first catch of the day.
Well, nice looking pattern there. Mohamed Sanu actually runs a clearing pattern out in front, and then Eifert floats in right underneath, and he's got some real estate. Devin McCourty had to come across a lot of field to catch up with Eifert, who's got really outstanding receiving skills. 6'6", 250. Man, he must look good to a quarterback.
This is Dalton with the keeper, and he slides down at the 40-yard line. Looks like it might be enough for a first down to the New York in the NFL today. JV and Ken.
Greg, I asked Shannon, what is it about Russell Wilson? And he said,
He just wins. 10-yard pass, Russell Wilson, Golden Tate. They're out early, Seahawks, 10, Colts, nothing.
not a bad description. Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf.
Thank you, guys. Dan, you and I will see Russell Wilson and those Seattle Seahawks a week from today.
We travel to the great Northwest, you're right.
On 2nd and 1, this is Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis for a first down just across the 40 to the 41-yard line. Ellis has already eclipsed what he did a week ago against the Cleveland Browns.
Well, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis has, he's just a solid, good running back. Now, his yards per carry average so far this year is something the Bengals know has got to get better, averaging 2.7 yards a carry, but he's reliable, he seldom fumbles, and he's a nice addition to any football team.
He's 5 for 24 today. He carried 6 times for 13 yards a week ago. Dalton with time, throwing. That's complete to Gresham. Gresham across midfield into New England territory at about the 46-yard line, brought down by Aqib Talib.
Well, it's Cincinnati now that has the 2 tight end offense, and we saw Eifert with the 1, and here comes Gresham on the other side. And take a look at that. That is a fine move that Jermaine Gresham puts on Dante Hightower. Hightower cannot throw out the brakes quickly enough. Now Gresham took a good hit at the end of that, but that was nice work after the catch, and I think he's feeling the effects. He took a big shot.
Green Ellis to the sideline, Giovanni Bernard into the backfield. Play fake to him. Dalton. That's complete to Eifert, and Eifert inside the 30 to about the 25-yard line, and another Bengals first down.
Well, Bill Belichick knows that in that game against Atlanta last week that Tony Gonzalez had a big day working the middle of the field, and that's exactly what we're seeing here at the very beginning. Eifert just on a simple seam route against the zone, beyond the linebacker, in front of the safety, and that was a nice soft pass delivered by Andy Dalton.
This is Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis breaking into the secondary inside the 15 and fighting his way to about the 12, maybe the 11.5-yard line. That's another Cincinnati first down.
Well, and there's a good look at the passing game setting up the running game. We've seen a couple of successful throws downfield. Just a wide open gap off right guard. Boy, a nice seal block back to the inside by Kevin Zeitler, the second-year guard. Andre Smith at right tackle gets it done. And here's a drive that started with the worst field position, now being the most successful drive for the Bengals.
Bernard in the backfield. Bernard with the handoff to about the 9. And we're inside of a minute to play here in the first quarter.
This has been a nice mix and match by Jay Gruden.
Boy, Jay Gruden couldn't talk enough about Tyler Eifert, could he? He said he's going to finish as one of the really good tight ends in the NFL.
Well, when you've got two tight ends as an offensive coordinator, it opens up such a wealth of possibilities, both in the running game and the passing game. When you have the Patriots showed us the last couple of years what you can do when you've got two receivers that are big people.
2nd and 7. Dalton with time. Floats to his right, looking, throws back the other way, and he was picked at the 5. Threw across his body. That's a no-no for quarterbacks, and Brandon Spikes was there. Andy Dalton led the way among active NFL quarterbacks. No interceptions in the red zone and 37 touchdowns, and that's his first.
And Andy Dalton and Jay Gruden yelling at each other on the sideline, trying to get it to Eifert, but the complete position was held by Brandon Spikes. Horrible throw.
As we told you before the timeout, Andy Dalton's first interception in the red zone of his career. And the Patriots take over at their own 8.
Ryan, read it.
As we start the second quarter. Brady throwing, and out close to the 15-yard line is Amendola. Let's go back to that interception.
All right, Eifert is right here on the wing. Here's Brandon Spikes, who's just going to drop back into his zone. Watch Eifert as he comes back in. Spikes is just honoring his zone responsibilities. He's sitting there, and all of a sudden he just steps right in front of Eifert. And Andy Dalton knew the minute he let it go, that unless Spikes dropped it, that was going to be a turnover.
2nd and 3. This is LeGarrette Blount, and Blount hit hard at the 15-yard line. Carlos Dunlap making the hit. Hey, Dylan McDermott and Tony Collette star in the new drama critics call a white-knuckle conspiracy thriller. Get hooked on hostages tomorrow at 10, 9 Central, only CBS.
Well, Andy Dalton can look at all the pictures he wants to, but when you get out of the pocket like that, you're already over on the sidelines. You had plenty of downs to work with. Just throw it away.
33 now.
Louis, hold on.
Brady throwing out to the side. That's complete to Bolden, and Bolden has first down yardage. Out of bounds close to the 30-yard line. By the way, this is now the 32nd straight game that the Patriots have chalked up at least one takeaway, and that's the longest active streak in the NFL.
Well, there's been so much attention paid to everything going on with the New England offense and all their problems and new people and all this and all that. It, kind of lost in that is how well the Patriots have been playing defensively.
Blount moves his way to about 32.
And that's one of the things that LeGarrette Blount brings to the running attack is he really is a finisher. He is every bit of 250 pounds. He's got breakaway speed, but he's got power to go with it. He's that rare combination of both size, strength, and speed.
Breakaway speed for a guy built like a linebacker.
Yes, sir.
2nd and 6.
25! Like 20! Come on!
turned around. This is Edelman. Edelman trying to turn the corner and up the sideline. Let's see where they mark him out. He'll be marked out of bounds at about the 40-yard line, and enough for a first down for New England.
Well, that run right there shows you why Julian Edelman is such a good punt returner. He has got such a nice feel out in space. Yeah, watch when he's out here. He is hemmed in. There's no way he's going to get to the corner. But Iloka can't make it. He made the fake back to the inside just enough to hold Iloka. And look at Tom Brady with some nifty little ball handling, setting up that end around.
Brady with time this time and throwing incomplete. Intended for Edelman. He was double covered coming to the near side of the field.
And that was a throwaway by Tom Brady. He was going to go to Edelman, and then in mid-throw he realized that Iloka and Newman both had him bracketed, and Tom Brady just threw that ball out of bounds. That's an incompletion, but a darn good decision. And Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady have had the good fortune of being together for years and years.
Kind of like the decision Andy Dalton failed to make in the red zone at the other end.
Exactly.
2nd and 10. The pitch to Blunt. Blunt cuts it back. And out to about the 43-yard line, James Harrison making the stop. I mentioned earlier, it's strange to see him in any colors other than those of the Pittsburgh Steelers, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I don't know that I'll ever get used to it. You know, he doesn't play in their sub packages, which is the packages they play against passing situations. So in some of the games, James Harrison just hasn't played a lot of football. He's primarily a pass rusher or a run stuffer, but they've got a lot of good pass rushers without him.
He goes to the sideline here on 3rd and 7.
No shortage of people that can rush the passer here in Cincinnati.
Brady steps up in the pocket, throws down the middle, incomplete. Amendola, the intended receiver, but the Bengal defender was much closer to that ball than was Amendola.
Well, again, Danny Amendola, because of missing 3 weeks, he and Tom Brady have missed a lot of practice time. That's Taylor Mays, the safety, running right with him. Now, this is a 5-man rush by Cincinnati, and this time Tom Brady got good blocking by his group up front, but good work in the secondary.
4 offensive possessions for the Patriots, 4th punt of the day, and Brandon Tate pulls this one in at his 15-yard line. And back across the 20 to about the 21. Just under 11 minutes to play here in the second quarter. We are still scoreless at Paul Brown Stadium. It is about so much more than pink on the field. Together, the NFL and the American Cancer Society are helping women across the country make a crucial catch. Hear the personal impact stories and find out how you can help finish the fight against breast cancer at NFL.com/pink. Danny Amendola, like many around the NFL, and many of us have lost a close friend or a loved one to breast cancer. Amendola has lost his aunt. Many stories, unfortunately, like that around the league. First down, Cincinnati, their own 22. Dalton, this side. Hit as soon as he made the catch was Jermaine Gresham. It'll be about a 3-yard pickup.
Well, again, Gresham and Eifert are such a big part of this passing offense, but Devin McCourty, the safety, right there waiting for Gresham, and Gresham never, we saw earlier how good he is after the catch, but if you don't even get a chance to turn your hips upfield, you've got very little opportunity to make anything happen.
Giovanni Bernard in the backfield now, and he gets the handoff for running him on the left side, and there is none there.
Giovanni Bernard is Mr. Excitement, the 2nd-round pick from North Carolina, and again, he's just a big play waiting to happen. He's, like all young running backs, sometimes a liability in pass protection. Andy Dalton will remind him of his responsibilities if that's what they are on a given play. This time he's flexing out in a bunch as one of the wide receivers.
The Bengals, 4 for 14 on 3rd down last week. They're 0 for 2 today. Dalton out here to this side, and that's not getting the first down. Bernard with the catch. Gerard Mayo with the immediate contact at the 25-yard line.
Well, Gerard Mayo, the best of the New England linebackers, probably their best, not probably, their best defensive player. Gerard Mayo has just become one of the fine linebackers in the National Football League, and that was an illustration. A smart play, an intelligent play, and a grade A 10 out of 10 tackle.
Penalty marker down. Edelman lost the football at the 40-yard line.
He got it back, but
let's check the flag that was thrown on the play. Gene Steratore. Checking with the Patriots sideline before he makes his announcement.
It looks like a procedure call against Cincinnati. There's no way they're going to make them punt again. That's outstanding field position for New England.
Their best field position in a week.
They're trying to get Bill to. Bill was back talking to some of his defensive guys rather.
Legal procedure. Player out of bounds voluntarily on his own returns back in the field of play as a 5-yard penalty. Will be added to the end of the run. First down, New England. Timeout.
So 9:03 remaining to be played here in the first half. And we're still scoreless. New England and Cincinnati. As Bill Belichick talks to his Chargers on the sideline, boy, this is just plain old big breathing room for Brady. As he operates from his own 46-yard line, and LeGarrette Blount carries into Cincinnati territory at the 49-yard line.
And that is a good, solid play on first down. That's a good surge by the guys up front. It makes everything easier for Brady, Josh McDaniels, all the way down the offensive chain when you pick up a solid 5 on first down.
Brady fakes left, goes right. The screen is to Owamanawanui. And a penalty marker flies.
That's a horse collar tackle.
As he's brought down at the 47.
It was a tremendous piece of awareness by Carlos Dunlap.
Horse collar tackle, defense, number 96, 15-yard penalty out of the end of the run.
I mean, Dunlap does a tremendous job of identifying the play, but that is, he got it and he just wouldn't let go. It is too easy to injure the ball carrier when you grab him by the back of the shoulder pads or the jersey. Either one in that area qualifies as a horse collar tackle. And it drew several flags. So initially, a wonderful play by Carlos Dunlap.
Turns into a bad one.
Yep, it turns into a personal foul.
Patriots now in enemy territory for the first time today. Brady over the middle. Tip incomplete. Off of Owamanawanui and came close to being intercepted by Reggie Nelson.
He's going after Owamanawanui again, and this time it's behind him. That was not the best throw by Tom. If he put that out in front, that's going to be a completion, but that ball just on the back shoulder into traffic, and a little bit inaccurate from Tom.
Second and 10. Blount running room. Still on his feet. Inside.
That ball's out.
And the ball is loose.
Reggie Nelson, I think, comes away with the football. It was tomahawked out.
By look like Carlos Dunlap, perhaps. There's Dunlap from behind. Here comes the football. And the Bengals thwart the Patriots. Welcome back to Cincinnati. Just under 8 minutes remaining here in a scoreless first half. And Dalton and the Bengals on offense once again. The Bengals and Baltimore finished tied atop the AFC North last season at 10-6. Double reverse. This is Marvin Jones. Jones around the left side has first down yardage. Let's get an update from the NFL Today in New York once again. JB, Shannon Sharp.
Andrew showing it's no luck.
JB, his longest touchdown pass of his early career. Down 12-0 in the first quarter. T Y. Hilton into the end zone. First points the Seahawks have given up all year in the first quarter. Well, 7. Seahawks still on top.
Greg and Dan.
And Greg, we've played a quarter and a half of football. Where is A.J. Green?
Nowhere thus far. That's Ben Jarvis Green Ellis dragged down by Brandon Spikes.
A.J. Green, the receiving, the number 1 receiver for the Bengals. And let me tell you something, he has been a non-factor in this game. Well, that was not a lethal block, but it was a running play, and I don't think A.J. is really known around the NFL as a vicious blocker.
But Andy Dalton has not yet completed a pass to a wide receiver today. 5 to his tight ends and 1 to a running back. Dalton throwing far side of the field. There he is, caught out of bounds.
And that time he shook loose from Aqib Talib, who on the majority of snaps today is going to have the responsibility of trying to cover A.J. Green. That was a tremendous head and shoulder fake, and you saw that he got Aqib Talib to honor that inside move, and then he broke it back. That was an outstanding piece of work by A.J. Green. Possession, ball, 2 feet in, nicely done.
You were talking about what he does, and Talib reinforced with us last night. He is all finesse and speed. Dalton throwing this side of the field and off the hands of Green Ellis.
Well, you can't blame that on Andy Dalton. He delivers a nice football out to Green Ellis. You know, they ran the end around. That time they faked the end around. And even though Steve Gregory was right there, and he didn't even turn his head downfield. He actually looked the ball right into his hands and still couldn't control it.
Hey, watch it, Cook. Hey, watch that.
2nd and 10.
Easy. Hey, let's go. White Spider 3. White Spider 3.
Hey, boy.
White Spider 3. Here you go. Hurry up. Stop.
On the quick slant. That's complete inside the 40 to the 36 to Green.
Well, finally the embargo on A.J. Green participating in this game is over with. And this time again, a big body at 6 feet 4 inches long, just a quick slant to the inside, and Aqib Talib just hops on and goes for a ride. A perfectly run route, and a perfectly delivered football, almost impossible. And you can see A.J. Green really fighting to hold on to that football as Talib from behind tries to dig it out.
Now another slant from the far side of the field, and this one is Marvin Jones. And Jones to the 25-yard line, and another first down for Cincinnati.
And Greg, you mentioned that the wide receivers weren't a part of things until now. And now on the other side, another just quick slant to the inside to Marvin Jones. And this will loosen up a defense. Start completing some balls to the outside.
Bernard in the backfield. Bernard straight ahead. And about a yard.
Gerard Mayo lowered his shoulders and dropped Giovanni Bernard. Man, Gerard Mayo is a good football player.
100-plus tackles each of his first 5 years in the league.
He's got the speaker in his helmet. He takes the call from Matt Patricia, and he relays it to the rest of the defense, gets everybody in the right spots, calls the right blitzes.
And then he just makes the tackle. Yeah. Dalton, under pressure, going down back at the 34-yard line. That's Chris Jones, the rookie from Bowling Green.
Well, 2 rookies are charged with the responsibility of trying to fill in for Vince Wilfork, Joe Volano, and this guy, Chris Jones. And again, I don't know why, but it looked like Andre Smith, the right tackle, just thought the ball was gone. I don't know. The clock went off in his head that Andy Dalton should have thrown it. He just kind of turned Jones loose, and a sack as a result of it.
Now a tough 3rd and 17 for Dalton. He needs the 15-yard line for a first down. Gets time, throws to the near side. That is complete. Out of bounds at about the 20 is Mohamed Sanu.
No, but he makes it a lot easier field goal for Nugent. Mike Nugent was thrilled to see that completion. It makes his job a whole lot easier.
Mike Nugent 4 out of 5 on field goals this season. This one will be 39 yards. On its way and perfect. Finally, with 3:12 to play in the first half, someone dents the scoreboard. It's the Bengals, 3-0. Our first scoring drive of the day by the Bengals. 10 plays, 49 yards. Took up almost 5 minutes. And Mike Nugent's 39-yard field goal has the Bengals on top 3-0.
And for the first time, Greg, Cincinnati actually had a spark in their passing game. Got the wide receivers involved, got Green involved. They actually started to look like they were somewhat in rhythm.
And much to their relief, Andy Dalton on target with some passes. This is Devin McCourty running it out of the end zone. And out across the 20 to about the 21, 22-yard line. So Tom Brady still looking to get on the scoreboard here before the halftime bell hits. It's 3-0 Cincinnati. Patriots step to the line. You see the quarterback numbers.
The Cincinnati defense to this point has been exceptional.
Well, the New England offense has been nothing to write home to Foxborough. About 3 punts, a fumble, 2 3-and-outs, and less than 2 yards per passing play. That'll help with the pass to Danny Amendola across the 30 and out of bounds at the 32-yard line.
Well, the return of Danny Amendola is going to mean an awful lot to Tom Brady. Keep in mind they haven't had a lot of quality work, and that is a real mismatch there as he goes against safety Taylor Mays. Taylor Mays is a big, physical, run support type of safety. He has no chance of covering Amendola in the open field.
20!
This is Brandon Bolden. Bolden left side. Out to about the 30, to the 40-yard line. Incidentally, the Patriots tell us that Leon Washington has an ankle injury and his return today is questionable.
And speaking of Leon's, the best cover corner for the Bengals is Leon Hall, especially in the slot, and he's inactive today as he's down again with a hamstring injury. They're also missing Michael Johnson, a very talented defensive end. He's out because of some concussion issues. So a couple of defensive stalwarts missing today for the Bengals.
Brady to throw on 2nd and 2. Wide open, nice move back towards the quarterback, Julian Edelman, and Brady hit him and he's out of bounds at about the 42-yard line of the Cincinnati Bengals. With that, we get the 2-minute warning. 3-0 Bengals. We're a minute 57 seconds away from the Verizon halftime report. JB, Dan, Shannon, Boomer, Coach Cowher scores highlights. We'll have a preview of the Denver-Dallas matchup coming up on the Verizon halftime report. First down. New England at the Bengals 42. Brady this side again and incomplete inside in 35 as Braden went down courtesy of Carlos Dunlap, I believe.
Tom Brady has plenty of time to sit in there, find a receiver, and then he gets shoved over backwards by Dunlap. Quarterbacks, they get pretty used to going down like that. As long as they're not taking a helmet or a shoulder somewhere in the torso, they can live with that.
Tom Brady is one guy really looking forward to the return of Rob Gronkowski, whenever that is. He said simply, Gronk is a game changer. 2nd and 10. Quick pass to the far side. That goes nowhere. Aaron Dobson is dropped by Chris Crocker.
Well, that's a byproduct of doing your homework. Chris Crocker was breaking on that football before it even left Tom Brady's hands. Look at this quick read as he's out on Dobson. And again, when you're a receiver and you catch a pass and you don't even have the ability to swivel your hips and get turned upfield, it's a dead play. Great work by Crocker.
Both teams, all 3 timeouts remaining. This would be a big stop for the Cincinnati Bengals. 3rd and 14. Brady escapes the rush, throwing over the middle. Oh, what a diving catch made by Kenbrell Tompkins. And he is
The
whistled
run is ruled
down.
down by contact at the 31-yard line. First down, New England.
But is enough for a first down.
Well, Tom Brady, he's not the most agile of quarterbacks, but he has unbelievable pocket awareness. And look at the quality of that throw. And right now, because this is inside 2 minutes, the replay booth has got the ability to stop this and get Gene Steratore to take a look at it.
The previous play is being reviewed.
And again, this is not a coach's challenge. This comes from upstairs. And you can see that initially the ball wasn't handled cleanly.
So with 43 seconds to play, we will give you that look. Gene Steratore will take a look, and we'll get his decision when we come back.
Welcome back to Cincinnati, everybody. Watch this football come loose as Kenbrell Tompkins attempts to catch it. The ground bounces it back into his chest. That's an incomplete pass. I think this is going to bring up a fourth down for New England. He sold it. I'll give Kenbrell credit for that. He did a good job selling it.
Jumped up and ran for the end zone.
I don't think there was any doubt that he didn't have control of that football when it hit the turf and bounced back in.
Now the original line of scrimmage, where it would move back to, is the 46-yard line, and that would be out of field goal range for Steven Gostkowski.
And my guess is that's what the officiating crew right now is trying to determine. Make sure that they get back to the proper yard line. Unless Gene didn't see what we all saw.
After review, the ruling is an incomplete forward pass. The ball will be placed at the 46-yard line on the half court nearest New England's bench. It will be fourth down and 14 on the 46-yard line. With
So
the game clock operating.
on 4th and 14, the punting unit will come onto the field, and the Bengals get that stand, and they have 3 timeouts remaining.
Well, right now we'll see if Ryan Allen is good enough to pin the Bengals. Certainly in somewhere inside their 20, but can he really get one in there?
Brandon Tate standing inside his own 10.
Ryan Allen beat out Zoltan Mesko to become the Patriots punter. Mesko had been doing the job for like 3 years.
Allen, a rookie free agent out of Louisiana Tech.
This is where a punter earns his money.
Fair catch called for by Tate. Going to let it bounce, and the Patriots are going to kill it inside the 10-yard line.
Well, it's a 3-0 football game in favor of Cincinnati. It started off first possession of the game. Down goes Tom Brady. And then Andy Dalton, when he had Cincinnati in tremendous field position, threw an interception to Brandon Spikes. And then LeGarrette Blount is stripped of the ball by Dunlap. And again, it's been a defensive struggle.
Boy, has it ever.
Each team has 1 turnover. And check it out. The last time the Patriots were shut out, all the way back to Christmas Eve of 2011 against the Dolphins.
Their last 3 games, they put 40 points on the board in the first half.
You notice they won that game 27-24, so they put up 27 in half number 2.
This has been Jarvis Green Ellis out to about the 10-yard line, and we get a whistle and a timeout called.
Well, New England has a chance to get the ball back if they use their timeout.
2nd and 7 for Dalton and the Bengals. 52 seconds on the clock. Green Ellis once again.
And New England will take another timeout here real quickly.
And that's the second timeout used by the Patriots. 48 seconds on the clock.
And I don't know that Jay Gruden and Marvin Lewis have enough confidence in Andy Dalton to have him put the ball in the air here on a 3rd down.
Hey, just a reminder, coming up, the Verizon halftime report. James Brown, Dan Marino, Shannon Sharp, Boomer Esiason, and Coach Bill Cowher will have all the scores and highlights. Jim Nance and Phil Simms will preview that Denver-Dallas matchup a bit later. That's coming up on the Verizon halftime report. Third and 5.
Well, they're in a passing. They're in a formation with some wideouts.
Hand up.
They're going to give it to Green Ellis, and Green Ellis going to be brought down at the 14-yard line by Gerard Mayo once again.
Well, I think that this is just a situation where Marvin Lewis is saying my defense has been playing pretty darn well. I'm going to trust them to close out the first half. There has been some heavy-duty hitting, and Gerard Mayo has played just a superior first half of football. You just can't do any more than the linebacker's been doing for the Patriots. He has been everywhere, and his tackling has been absolutely textbook.
Well, if Brady can find the end zone in these final 40 or so seconds, give a lot of credit to that defensive series right there by New England.
Well, if he can just get Gostkowski anywhere close. And again, you've documented how good a punt returner Julian Edelman is.
That's a short punt. Fair catch called for and made at the 50-yard line. So here comes Brady with 37 seconds on the clock.
And this is just the type of situation where in days gone by, we would have seen Rob Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez running right down the seam in that type of a situation. And this has been such a radical change here for the Patriots offensively, almost exclusively a wide receiver offense.
Dan, when the Bengals needed it most, a time-consuming drive, they had a 20-second drive that last series. Brady escaping trouble over the middle, caught inside the 30-yard line by Amendola.
They got to get up and spike it.
And Brady spikes it and stops the clock with 22 remaining.
And the good news is, with 22 seconds, Tom still has the ability to use the entire field, because even a completed pass here in the field of play still gives him enough time to get up and spike it.
On 2nd and 10. Brady, quick pass, and that one, he was hit as he threw by Wallace Gilberry. There's Gostkowski. Dan, that catch by Amendola just reinforces what we've seen. We saw him get hurt week 1, came back with that injury, and still played a tremendous game, then missed the next 3 weeks.
I think at 19 seconds, there's still time to get the ball in the field of play and get up there and spike it. So I think Tom Brady has the whole field at his disposal here. Well, the problem is that's not going to happen. You're right, because it's going to be 4th down.
3rd and 10 out the far side of the field, complete and out of bounds to Brandon Bolden.
Yep.
And here comes Gostkowski.
Well, the inability to crack out a first down for the Bengals really wounded them there, allowing the Patriots here with a scoring opportunity.
This will be about a 42-yard field goal attempt. And we get a timeout call by the Bengals before the kick.
Marvin looked surprised that timeout was called. I don't know. I'm hard-pressed to interpret the look, but it was kind of a quizzical look on his face, like, where did that come from?
Well, there is the penchant on occasion for a coach to call a timeout just prior to a field goal attempt.
Just prior, but that was well out in front. Gostkowski wasn't, that snap didn't look imminent. Now, if this field goal is good, Cincinnati will get a kickoff return. They'll get a chance to do something with that.
Kick is on his way, and it is good. So these New England Patriots, unless something very radical happens in the final seconds here, will go to the locker room in a 3-3 tie, having never reached the red zone in the first half on offense.
Well, it was a really good pass right down the middle from Tom Brady to Danny Amendola that put them in field goal range. And fortunate for the Patriots that when the Bengals were backed up, they had all 3 of their timeouts and were able to use all 3 of them. Like you said, what was that, a 20-second possession?
20-second drive.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton, 10 of 12 for 107, and an interception costly deep in Patriot territory.
Those numbers for Brady, 20 attempted passes for a total of 90 yards. Those are numbers that you rarely ever see for Tom Brady. That is, that yard per attempt is staggeringly low.
Well, except for the rookie Kenbrell Tompkins, he really lacks the guy who stretches the field for him on occasion. 8 seconds remaining. Brandon Tate will not run this one out of the end zone. So Dalton and the Cincinnati offense will set up from the 20-yard line.
Well, the options available for Cincinnati here are a deep pass, some sort of a shorter pass with the old hook and ladder, start ladder, you know, like an end of a game.
Or a run right into the line and hello locker room.
Or take a knee and head to the locker room, and guess what we're going to get?
We speculated about this game, Dan, and I don't think we expected a 3-3 tie at halftime.
No.
That's what we have, though. We have come to the end of the first half. A field goal on each side. It's a 3-3 tie, and we're back with the Verizon Halftime Report after this message and a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. And Brady under pressure and goes down again. Throws back the other way, and he was picked at the 5.
Reggie Nelson, I think, comes away with the football.
Greetings from Cincinnati indeed. At halftime, it's a 3-3 tie, the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. And as you are well aware, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Diet Pepsi encourages fans to bid on pink gear to benefit the NFL's A Crucial Catch campaign. Show you're fan enough by visiting NFL.com/auction to bid for pink. And the NFL shows its support with all of the pink gear, and we, of course, are suitably attired as well. You look marvelous in your pink tie.
These are nice ties. I like it. I'm keeping mine.
I don't know what we expected out of a first half coming into this game, but this wasn't it, was it?
No, I expected it to be a little more wide open than this. Although 2 very good defensive football teams. You know, looking at the 2 turnovers, all right, one Blunt gets the ball hacked out of there. That was just a really good play by the Bengals. Andy Dalton's interception cost them points. And that hurts right now in a really tight ball game like this.
As we look at the halftime numbers, Dan, do you see any change in philosophy on either side going into the second half?
Well, at least later on in the second quarter, Greg, we saw the Bengals starting to get A.J. Green involved and started to open up their passing game a little bit. Prior to that, he hadn't even been targeted. So I'm assuming that Jay Gruden is going to try to get Andy Dalton working to his talented number 18 more often.
The Bengals will get the ball first here in the second half, and Brandon Tate is deep. One of the amazing things about that first half was the Patriots came out relatively unscathed despite some horrendous field position. And Tate will run this one out of the end zone from the goal line to the 20, out across the 25. Pretty good return out to about the 27.
Well, there's the Cincinnati possession start. Here's the interception right there that cost them points. And then on down the line, you see they finally get the field goal. But good work being done by both defensive units here in this ball game so far. Both of these defenses have hit hard, tackled well, and been in control. The offense has had to scratch for every yard.
Dalton comes out throwing, and that's off the fingertips of Tyler Eifert.
That ball was, again, I think, a route that could have resulted in a completion. Gerard Mayo was there with Eifert, but that ball from Dalton was kind of low and away. That's not winning football. Play 6 quarters and not be able to get in the end zone. Remember that loss last week against Cleveland. They must have a grand total of 2 field goals. That was it.
Dalton throwing, and that slant is nowhere near A.J. Green. You know, we had a talk with Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator, who said that he had some honest heart-to-heart words with Jay Gruden about last week's game.
Well, you know, Jay says, look, you know, initially, Andy, he was a rookie. So you said, well, he's a rookie. And then, well, he was a second-year guy. And those are the mistakes that second-year guys make. Well, now that he's in his 3rd year, the expectations have grown, and the margin of error has grown smaller.
Dalton got rid of it, far side, and batted away. Aqib Talib covering A.J. Green.
And I'm telling you, Aqib Talib last week, his work against Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons was just phenomenal. And again, you see he got hands on A.J. Green. He rerouted him, and not only did he reroute the receiver, he was able to also stay on his feet and stay in a position where he could actually defend the ball. That's just really brilliant work.
Edelman, for about his own 20, right up the middle. We have penalty markers on the field, but he is all the way out to the 45-yard line. Gene's territory is yet to make a call.
Well, they picked up the flag. There is no penalty.
So the line of scrimmage is the 45-yard line and a 24-yard punt return for Edelman. And Brady starts in terrific field position. Putbacks and across midfield and into Cincinnati territory is Kenbrell Tompkins.
And there you see the Patriots possession chart, which is absolutely nothing until right at the very end when they got a chance with less than a minute on the clock to move into field goal range, having to cover only 25 yards.
Brady working at a slightly faster pace now, just across midfield and into Cincinnati territory, 2nd and 5. To the outside, and that's complete for a first down to Bolden.
And I think Tom Brady, as the Patriots often do, when things aren't going well, they try to pick up the pace a little bit. They're going with no huddle. He's getting his team up to the line, and this is something that he and Josh McDaniels have been doing for years. It's just a change of pace. It has worked really well for them. They go in and out of it.
On first down, Brady throwing, and that's through the hands and almost completed further downfield, but through the hands
I think
of his initial target.
I think Amendola might have been the initial target. Yeah, there's Amendola, and that's a catch that more often than not he almost always makes. And you're right, it almost made it all the way down to Kenbrell Tompkins.
55.
2nd and 10.
Over. 58, alert. Out we go.
This is Bolden. And Bolden shakes one tackle, but not the next two. Carlos Dunlap, the first to hit him.
Well, this is exactly what Cincinnati would like to see. Brandon Bolden trying to get to the outside by going parallel to the line of scrimmage, because he doesn't have the kind of speed that's actually going to be able to pull that off. That was really good work by the entire Bengals defense. Carlos Dunlap there at the point of attack, but stringing it out not ever allowing the runner to turn the corner upfield.
Carlos Dunlap has played himself a football game. 3rd and 8.
Mike Zimmer showing pressure. He's got the A-gaps covered.
Brady pulls it down once, twice, and is tripped up and goes down back at about the 48-yard line.
Vontez Perfect from lying on the ground reaches out and just swipes the leg out from under Tom Brady. All right, let's look downfield. Tom Brady had all the time in the world. Julian Edelman was initially covered. Here's Tompkins on the other side. Tom is moving around, but watch this. Perfect is on the ground and ends up with a sack.
And this kick is going to be down inside the 10-yard line by the Patriots. Number 26, Logan Ryan down there with the special teams play, and Andy Dalton will start with his back to the end zone. First 3 weeks of the season, points weren't at so much of a premium for the Bengals as they went 2-1, 25 a game. But they didn't find the end zone last week, nor have they found it so far here today.
Well, luckily for their offense, their defense is playing really good football.
On first down, this has been Jarvis Green Ellis. And the ball came loose, but it is ruled down. Aqib Talib says, I got it. The official said, you don't care. We don't care.
Progress stop, 2nd down.
Well, Gene Steratore on his mic said the ruling was that forward progress had stopped. And once that call is made, that is the end of that. Forward progress can't be challenged. It's a judgment call by the official, and the play stands.
And a 5-yard pickup, and Dalton from the shotgun, throwing the quick slant, and that is a strike and incomplete. On the mark, but Giovanni Bernard just couldn't hold on.
Boy, this is Andy really jamming it in between two defenders, and he throws an absolutely perfect ball. But again, who is there knocking the ball away? Gerard Mayo. There's the distribution chart. And only one completion to a running back. And the wide receivers, they didn't get involved until the latter part of the second quarter.
It's 4 straight incompletions thrown by Dalton. On 3rd and 5, he needs one here. Pulls it down, and he's going to scramble. Can he get there out of bounds? And a first down at the 20.
Well, we've been talking about this wonderful matchup between A.J. Green and Aqib Talib. There they are at the top of your screen. Talib is going to get hands on him. He doesn't take them off. He rides Green pretty good, but Andy Dalton was scrambling at that point in time off in the complete other direction. Aqib Talib is going to be a free agent at the end of this season. I think the Patriots are going to have to open up the checkbook.
He has an interception in 3 straight games. Dalton looking far side of the field, and that's complete and out of bounds. A.J. Green has a first down.
Well, A.J. Green was with such tremendous speed, that time was able to gain some separation on Talib. Again, that is just a steel-on-steel matchup, these two. Talking to Talib about Green, he said, you know, he's not as physical as a Julio Jones, but his ability to release is really extraordinary. He's so smooth in getting separation off the line.
Bernard, running room right side. Spinning out across the 40, about a yard short of the first down. Gerard Mayo making the stop.
And already, regardless of whether this drive ends in points, this has been a successful drive for Cincinnati. Keep in mind, they started inside their own 10-yard line, and they've already flipped the field. So let's, they're hoping they can keep this going, but they've done good work to this point, just getting away from their own end zone.
Second and short yardage. Dalton throws far side of the field. This is Jermaine Gresham. And Gresham, he looks like he's right at that first down marker. Let's see where they mark him. It is a first down.
Well, he had to work for it, and he didn't get it by much. Aqib Talib had him down around the legs. This is Jermaine Gresham really just fighting hard. And here comes Dante Hightower in at the end with a thud hit that knocks him backwards. And Talib digging at that football, trying to get it to loose.
Then Jarvis Green Ellis across the 45 to about the 46-yard line. Hey, NFL fans, share your story about why you love NFL football. Go to NFL.com/TogetherWeMakeFootball for official rules and a chance to win a trip to Super Bowl 48. You know, we keep talking about Aqib Talib, and remember when I asked him last night, do you ever guess out there? Do you ever take chances? And he said, yeah. Is that encouraged by the coaches? He said, no, absolutely not.
But he did qualify by saying it's an educated guess based on a lot of film study.
2nd and 7. Dalton, quick pass, and that's complete inside the 45 and down to about the 43. Tyler Eifert.
Boy, you know Tom Brady must be sitting over on the other sideline going, man, this is what I used to do, throw to my tight ends in the middle of the field. And that's a luxury that Andy Dalton has that Tom Brady does not. Gresham and Eifert are a formidable pair, and they're young. Gresham just a 4-year player. Eifert, the rookie out of Notre Dame, their #1 draft pick. A big future for those guys here.
Dalton now spreading the field on 1st down at the Patriot 42. Good protection. Throwing incomplete. Inside the 30 to 25. Mohamed Sanu.
See, when you work the middle of the field, when you can do that with your tight ends, you are opening it up for everybody else. And Steve Gregory's, it looks like he's lost the feeling in his right arm. Steve Gregory comes in and makes the big hit on the right shoulder, and he just, watch Gregory come in, and he's going to hit Sanu with his right shoulder. A good tackle, you know, the proper way to get in there and hit with his shoulder, but man, he's paying a price for it right now.
They'll look after Gregory. We'll take a timeout. 7:16 to play in the 3rd. Back at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Steve Gregory popped up and walked off the field. He's been replaced by Duron Harmon.
Yeah, he looks like he's getting ready to come back in. He's got both his chin straps buckled up. Tom Brady's going, man, I'd like to get back out there. This is a fine possession by the Bengals.
Baker under pressure and going down.
Guess who?
Number 51.
Yes, good guess. Gerard Mayo comes on the blitz. And again, Andy Dalton can't find anybody downfield. And Mayo was actually the last guy in there. That's kind of a green dog blitz. Chris Jones was actually the first guy in there, but Gerard Mayo gets the sack.
This is Bernard. And just as Bernard looked like he was getting up ahead of speed, he was stopped in his tracks by Brandon Spikes.
And again, a very promising drive now faces a 3rd and 16 because of that sack. Andy Dalton can't afford another mistake at this end of the field.
Third time today, Dalton has been sacked.
But if they don't get any more yards, you're looking at about a 50-yard field goal.
Dalton going to go deep. Looking for Green, overthrown, intercepted in the end zone, and it is incomplete. He is ruled out of the end zone.
Well, it was some effort by Aqib Talib.
Well, he was a lot closer than A.J. Green was to the ball.
There's one, and the second one out by about a foot. There's possession. The right one is in, but the left one is clearly out of bounds.
So here's Mike Nugent, who is 0 for 1 for 50 or more yards this year. This one will come from exactly 50 yards out. On its way. And good. 5:43 to play in the 3rd. Pretty good drive. Ends in another field goal, 6-3 Cincinnati. a 13-play, 59-yard drive.
Didn't end in a touchdown, but it was a very productive effort considering that drive started inside their own 10. Highly successful.
So Mike Nugent, who clicked on the 50-yard field goal, will kick it away to Devin McCourty. And McCourty gets a chance to run this one from the goal line. Shakes tacklers, crosses the 20 and out of bounds at about the 22-yard line. So that's the starting point for Tom Brady and the New England offense. They trail 6-3 with 5:35 to play in the third.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by McDonald's. I'm loving it. And by E-Trade.
New England Patriots with just 3 total yards to their credit here in the third quarter.
137 for the whole game.
Starting from their own 22 with Garrett Blunt out to about the 24 and a half, maybe the 25-yard line. Only CBS has the #1 new show on television. See why 15 million viewers are laughing with Robin Williams and the new hit comedy, The Crazy Ones, Thursday at 9, 8 Central on America's most watched network.
I mean, as we click down towards the 5-minute mark of the third quarter, the fact that the Patriots have mustered up a grand total of 140 yards in total offense. Keep in mind, Tom Brady has what, a 52-game streak of throwing a touchdown pass?
Their longest drive is 35 yards today. Brady with time. And what a catch. Pulled in by Edelman to the 42-yard line and a first down.
Oh, and Vontaze Burfict, who's got a bad knee to begin with, at the end of this play, I think collides with his own teammate. Right there at the end of it, and he got up limping a little bit. You're right, some effort there by Edelman.
17-yard pickup, first down at the 42. Play fake this time. Brady throwing over the middle and well short of Kenbrell Tompkins. Let's get an update from New York once again. James Brown, Shannon Sharp.
All right, is it Chris Johnson or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
The stat line will say 49-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick. Actually, it's a 2-yard pass and a 47-yard run. Chris Johnson weaves his way into the end zone, picks up a block from Nate Washington into the end zone, 13-7 Kansas City.
Net a touchdown. Greg Gumbel and Dan Deerdorf.
That's what you wait for Chris Johnson. You give him the ball, and every once in a while he'll pop one.
You know, the Patriots ran play action the last time, and Brady got thumped again.
This is Brandon Bolden, and Bolden is hit. Back at the 42-yard line by Gilberry and Chris Crocker.
Well, Gilberry from the defensive end position, he fights off the block of Nate Solber. He gets an arm on him, but it's really the run support of Chris Crocker. The safety comes up, and again, look at that form tackle. Mike Zimmer's defense is playing just one heck of a football game.
And now Brady with a 3rd and 10. And this crowd is suddenly alive. Penalty markers fly. Brady trying to spin out of trouble and can't.
Well, I think Carlos Dunlap was offsides.
Offside. Defense, number 96. 5-yard penalty, replay. 3rd down.
So a 3rd and 10 becomes a 3rd and 5.
There's no question that he got a jump on the ball. Bob Kraft there in the middle, his son Jonathan sitting to his left. And they haven't seen many games like this over the many years that he's owned a team where they've struggled like this offensively.
Hey, 55 to line.
Brady with still time on the play clock.
And the Bengals showing pressure. Here they come. Good pass.
And that is complete, and that is going to be short of a first down. Brandon Bolden with the catch, but brought up about 2 yards shy of a first down at midfield.
And there is Mike Zimmer, the defensive coordinator of the Bengals. And man, he is calling one heck of a game, and his guys are executing. Again, a 5-man rush, but Tom has to dump it off, but the play's made downfield. And you can see there was a hand on the face mask, but it wasn't grabbed at the end by Adam Jones. You can have your hand on the face mask as long as you don't grab it and pull it.
7th punt of the day by the Patriots. Adam Jones is deep. And this one will bounce and take a Patriot roll inside the 10-yard line and come to rest at about the 7. 2:09 to play in the third quarter. Points hard to come by today. For the 7th time today, one of these teams is beginning a drive inside its own 15-yard line. This is the 3rd for Cincinnati.
That helps explain the lack of points when you got to cover that much ground.
Quick pass this side. A.J. Green looking for running room. And out to about the 10-yard line before he's knocked out of bounds by Kyle Arrington.
Well, any play where you try to get the ball into Green's hands is to be applauded. And that's really the equivalent of a running play. That's a pass with a 98% completion percentage attached to it.
Second and 7. Dalton under pressure and going down. At about the 1-yard line, maybe the 2 is where he'll be marked down. Tommy Kelly.
It's not where you end up. It's where you're first contacted by the defender, where they spot the ball. Tommy Kelly he just gets inside Kevin Zeitler. I don't know if Zeitler was hoping he was going to get some help from Cook at center, but it wasn't there. And Tommy Kelly, what an acquisition by the Patriots. The longtime Raider.
This pass is complete to Marvin Jones. And that's a terrific throw down the near sideline for a first down.
What a throw by Andy Dalton. What a throw. And again, working against the New England zone. That time McCourty wasn't there in time to break it up. He got there just a step late. And Kyle Arrington in a trail position.
So with a little room, they operate from their own 30-yard line. And this is Gio Bonnie Bernard breaking free. Bernard, midfield, 45, and inside the 45 to about the 42-yard line. McCourty and Dennard combined to save the touchdown.
Well, that's the first time that they're able to get Bernard loose. He'd had 6 carries for 13 yards prior to that run. And that is the open field work they like to see from this kid, but he'd been bottled up to that point.
The Bengals finish the third quarter on a high note. That's the end of 3. 6-3 Cincinnati. Back after this message and a word from your local station. The NFL on CBS. Along with our producer, Mark Wolf, and our director, Suzanne Smith, Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf, the rest of our crew here in Cincinnati. It's been a while since the Bengals have scored a touchdown on offense. Week 3 against Green Bay. First down at the New England 42. Dalton got rid of it. The catch is made, and to the 40-yard line is Tyler Eifert. You know, that one looked like it was trouble developing for Cincinnati.
Well, they were running a double route with Eifert underneath and Gresham long, and Dalton got to pick between the two. And the end of that play, that's an illustration of how ugly it can be sometimes for a tight end. When you catch the football, you're attracting a lot of buzz around you. And geez, he got bent back really awkwardly, and it's not all that glamorous.
Pick up a 3. That's second and 7. Dalton on the move. Going to keep it. and scrambles inside the 35 to about the 34. That'll be about 2 yards short of a first down. And we have a player down on the field.
Oh my gosh, that's Tommy Kelly. And look at him grab his knee. They lost Vince Wilfork last week to an Achilles. And now Tommy Kelly's hurt. We're back here in Cincinnati. Here's Tommy Kelly. He's chasing Andy Dalton. Watch him throw his right leg out right there. And when he does that, he immediately clutches his right knee. Something gave way right there when he planted. And not contacted by another player, Tommy Kelly goes down. And some type of a leg injury.
This has been Jarvis Green Ellis. Chris Jones is in the lineup, replacing Tommy Kelly, who told us last night he chose coming to the New England Patriots because it was his best shot he felt at winning.
Well, at the beginning of last week's game, the Patriots had two extremely talented, veteran, experienced defensive tackles in Vince Wilfork and Tommy Kelly. And we'll see about Tommy Kelly's injury, but right now they have two rookies. That's quite a radical change.
On first down, pass outside is complete to Eifert. And Eifert spins down inside the 25. Let's get another NFL Today update from New York. JB and Shannon.
Giants within 5, Shannon.
The battling back, JB, here. Eli Manning, Reuben Randall, missed tackle into the end zone. 26 yards, 19-14 Eagles, but the Giants are coming back.
Greg Gumbel, Dan Deerdorf.
All right, thank you, guys. Good news for the Giants is everybody else seems to be about average in that division, too. This is Bernard. And Bernard to about the 18-yard line. Brandon Spikes in on the stop.
Well, Andy Dalton has made a couple things happen by moving, getting out of the pocket. He's broken free a couple times and run for positive yardage. So I know that's something that the Patriots have to think about. But again, they are soft in the middle. Nothing against Jones and Villano, but you subtract Wilfork and Kelly, that's a big change in the middle of this defense.
3rd and 3 now for Dalton. Dalton throwing it wide open to A.J. Green. Green to the 10, to the 5, and it'll be 1st and goal.
And a good job by A.J. Green of making a move and getting free, but then securing the football. Because Aqib Talib, number 31, he's going to miss the tackle right here. But he is going to come back and try to knock out the ball right there. And A.J. Green did a really good job of securing it.
Then Jarvis Green Ellis up the middle, looking for the end zone. And he is going to be ruled down just short of the goal line.
And the Cincinnati offensive line got a good push right up the middle against that New England defense. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, I mean, look at that surge.
2nd and goal, Green Ellis. Did he get there? No.
Now, Brandon Spikes did a heck of a job from his middle linebacker spot of knifing up there, making a hit.
Now this New England defense has been outstanding in the red zone. Last 9 trips by an opponent, they've allowed just 1 touchdown. Today, they made an interception.
Is that... Tommy Kelly just came back onto the field for the Patriots. Tommy Kelly just was a last-second substitute.
And
there he is.
And we have a timeout on the field.
Boy, that is some good news if you're a New England fan. A lot of times when you see a guy go to the ground like that untouched, you think something serious has happened.
Okay, we've had no indication from the field as to why this timeout is called, but the officials are huddled at the 10-yard line. And they're still talking.
Well, Gene Steratore is a good referee on the mic.
Oh, that's terrific.
He'll explain it. Oh.
The game clock operator reset the game clock to 10 minutes, 20 seconds. We have 6 seconds on the play clock. I'm going to wind the play clock with 6 seconds. Reset game clock to 10 minutes, 20 seconds. Thank you.
Which means the Bengals had better be ready to snap the football.
They better get up there on the... Well, they're going to have to take it. The Bengals going to have to take a timeout.
And they do. 10:14 to play. Big play upcoming after this. Back in Cincinnati, Tommy Kelly back on defense for the Patriots. And in the Cincinnati backfield is defensive tackle Domata Peko in as a blocking back.
He has to report to the officiating crew because he is now becoming he has become an eligible receiver wearing an ineligible number. So he has to identify himself. The officiating crew alerts the Patriots.
Third and about a half a yard. Green Ellis behind Peko. And Domata Peko just jumped and is going to cost the Bengals 5 yards.
94, offense, 5-yard penalty, third down.
What a mistake. Peko so excited to go up there and hit somebody, his chance to play fullback. And he just knows he cost his team 5 yards and changes everything. Because I think all the way when they were inside the 1 yard line, if they wouldn't have got in, I bet you Marvin Lewis was prepared to go for it on 4th down from that short of a distance. But now that you're back outside the 5 yard line, everything changes.
We're talking probably about a passing play here for Andy Dalton. 3rd and goal from the 5. Two receivers to the top, 3 to the bottom. Dalton gonna do the quarterback draw, looking for the end zone. And he's gonna come back to about the original line of scrimmage at the half-yard line.
Well,
and I agree with you, Dan. I think Marvin Lewis goes for it here.
I would. I know that I would in this situation. Andy Dalton gets to the 1 yard line. Well, the crowd is letting Marvin know what they think, and he's going to go for it. Here comes Peko back out onto the field.
The Patriots defense on 4th down, opponents are 0 for 6 so far this season.
And Tommy Kelly had to come back out of the ball game. You know the Patriots would like to have him in there right now.
Peko ahead of Green Ellis in the backfield. Green Ellis straight ahead. Touchdown! And that time Peko led the charge.
Great surge by the Cincinnati offensive line. And you don't want to belabor the point, but that's where Vince Wilfork really earns his money. The big bucks playing defense in situations like that. And again, a reminder, Tommy Kelly was out on that play as well.
First touchdown of the day. Nugent, extra point. Is good. 9:21 to play in the 4th. Cincinnati jumps to a decent lead, 13-3. Last 2 Bengal drives have been eating some clock. This one, 7 minutes and 48 seconds. The one that culminated in a field goal, 6 minutes and 17 seconds off the clock. Devin McCourty is deep for the Patriots. And McCourty will run this one out from about 3 yards deep. Full head of speed, leaping over a couple of would-be tacklers, and out to about the 24-yard line. And here comes Tom Brady, who entered this game 52 straight games with at least 1 touchdown pass. 2 behind Drew Brees.
That streak started against the Bengals back in 2010. And let me tell you something, Mike Zimmer's unit so far in this ball game, it is a mind-numbing number that they have limited the Patriots through this much football to a grand total of 160 total yards of offense. Now, the question is, can you finish it?
LeGarrette Blount with running room on the left side and out to about the 30. Hey, don't miss a new episode of the hit drama Person of Interest. New night and time, Tuesday at 10, 9 Central, only CBS.
And with a little less than 9 minutes left in this game, Josh McDaniels knows that he can still afford to run the football. He can attempt to run a balanced scheme, trailing by only 2 scores.
Brady, deep drop, throw it, wide open midfield, and catching on the run is Aaron Dobson. Dobson up the sideline and breaking, 25, 20. Lost the football and recovered it at about the 17-yard line.
What a tremendous piece of work by Aaron Dobson when it looked like he was going to end up being forced out of bounds. I think Adam Jones was the corner. Watch him go up the sidelines. There's going to be a moment. Right here, Jones thinks he is out of bounds, and he comes back into the field of play. Edelman down there trying to make a block. Tompkins trying to block. And fortunately for him, the ball came right back to him.
17-yard line. Yes, that would be called a fortuitous bounce.
Yes, sir.
Brady from the 17, throwing inside the 5, complete, rolling to the end zone is Amendola.
And I think the official is going to rule that George Iloka, the safety, got a hand. He got a hand on Amendola before he was able to roll in to the end zone.
No, he didn't.
He didn't. That was the ruling. Oh, okay, it was out front. Chris Crocker touched him before he got in the end zone.
First red zone trip for the Patriots today. LeGarrette Blount. Nothing doing.
Oh, he lost yardage. I don't think Blount even got back to the line of scrimmage.
Ball is spotted just inside the 2.
Now Mike Zimmer knows that a lot of good work was compromised here by a couple plays.
Brady, play fake, throwing, corner of the end zone, incomplete.
Trying to go for Nate Solder, his left tackle, who a lot of times in short yardage situations moves to a tight end position where he played a lot when he was a rookie. But in that situation, you're counting on the fact that the defense totally disregards him, and Ray Maluga had none of that.
Now, let's remember, Tom Brady and Ryan Wendell as center have had an issue a couple of times this year with the exchange.
You're right, twice.
And we get a whistle and a timeout called by Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, a 30-second timeout.
So the Bengals use their second timeout here in the second half. Gives us an opportunity to remind you coming up next, Peyton Manning and the unbeaten Denver Broncos battle Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys down in Dallas. That's coming up next on CBS. We talked with Tom Brady about those exchanges. He wasn't overly concerned about it. He said, we'll get it worked out.
Yeah, but it's a concern to everybody else. I think the Bengals only had 10 men on the field. That's why they had to take that timeout.
3rd and goal. Throwing this side. Oh, what a catch. What a throw.
He dropped it.
Incomplete. Edelman looked like he had it and he couldn't hold on.
Pac-Man Jones kept fighting for it. He kept scratching and clawing because you're right, initially it looks like Edelman's going to hold on to it, but he just couldn't get control of the football. And Belichick, knowing he needs 2 scores, even though he's this close, is opting for the field goal. You just can't afford in this situation to come away with nothing.
From 20 yards out, Gostkowski. Here a basic chip shot. 6.5 to play in the fourth quarter. Cincinnati's lead is now 13-6. 6 minutes, 28 seconds remaining. Officially, that has now been listed as a 19-yard field goal by Gostkowski. Cincinnati's lead is a touchdown. Touchback and come out to the 20-yard line. Hey, next Sunday is an NFL Today road trip. Boomer Esiason, Bill Cowher, Shannon Sharp will be leaving the studio and headed for the announce booth as analysts covering one of their former teams, while JB and Dan Marino hold down the fort in New York. The guys hit the road next Sunday for the NFL Today road trip right here on CBS.
Well, Mr. Gumble, few things in football are harder than scratching out first downs in an attempt to protect the lead.
Giovanni Bernard with the carry. Finds room on the right side and busts through for about 7 yards.
That was huge on first down, being able to crack off about 7. Andre Smith gets a good block. Look at that pin to the inside that he gets from the right tackle spot. And they finally were able to get Giovanni Bernard loose. He's averaging over 5 yards a carry.
What are you doing?
Andy Dalton should be milking this play clock. I wouldn't be snapping this football until I was down inside 5 seconds.
Bernard once again almost broke it. Out to the 35 and a first down. Let's get back to you once again, JB and Shannon.
Shannon, what did you say about Ray Rice earlier?
He was going to do a lot of touches, and you should take him in fantasy. His second touchdown of the day, 3-yarder. They're in front, 23-13 over the Dolphins.
12:06 left in regulation. Back to Greg Gumbel and Dan Deerdorf.
All right, guys, thank you. Cincinnati's running game getting the job done today. 150 yards rushing. They come in averaging less than 85. New set of downs for Dalton. This is Bernard. And Bernard and everybody else moving the pile across the 40-yard line to the 41 as we hit the 5-minute mark.
And the rain is starting to fall again. It's supposed to rain pretty solidly all day, and it did not. It's been dry the vast majority of the day, but it has started to rain now. The crowd's going for their rain slickers.
I was going to say, your first clue was what, the rustling in the crowd?
Yes. Which means the ball's going to start getting a little slick, and we know that New England's going to be digging at it and trying to get it loose.
Second and 5.
What are you going to do?
Once again, Bernard. And Bernard squeezing through. He's going to be ruled down at about the 42.5, 43.5 yard line.
Well, this has got to make Jay Gruden happy. They're down to 3rd and 2, but these are big boy yards right here. We're running it. See if you can stop us.
Tommy Kelly is now a questionable return with that knee injury that he suffered a few moments ago. Giovanni Bernard, 3 rushing yards in the first half, 63 here in the second half.
You saw that chart showing how they've been running up the middle with no will for it.
3rd and 2. Play time running down, and a timeout is called. And so Cincinnati now out of timeouts for the rest of regulation. There is Tommy Kelly.
Well, we've had a busy fourth quarter. Cincinnati finally scores a touchdown. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis pounds it in. But then Tom Brady comes right back to Dobson, who stays in bounds. And this was a 75-yard scoring drive. Fortunately, that ball came right back to him. And Julian Edelman almost able to corral that for a TD, but they had to settle for a Gostkowski field goal. And again, the Patriots are a touchdown behind.
Now, Dan, the Bengals looking at another third down. They started the game 1 out of 7 on third down. Since then, they've converted 4 out of 6 tries.
Well, and Marvin Lewis's team is, right now, they've told New England we're running the football, and New England, to this point, hasn't been able to keep them from scratching out a couple first downs.
Giovanni Bernard in the backfield. Dalton going to throw for it. Under pressure, got rid of it. Sideline complete. Midfield, first down, Bernard.
Well, Andy Dalton, under pressure, bought himself some extra time. And Giovanni Bernard, as a rookie, smart enough to go out there and give your quarterback an option. And Dalton was able to check down, find him. What a huge first down.
We talked with Jay Gruden about Bernard's pass protection abilities, and he said sometimes he slips out of the backfield too early. Not there.
Now New England still has all 3 of their timeouts remaining. We'll see when Belichick elects to start using him.
Left side, lost the football! On the far side, covered by Gerard Mayo.
Well, rookies giveth and rookies taketh away. Giovanni Bernard has a helmet put on the football by Devin McCourty. It looked to me like his helmet goes right on the ball, and the ball just goes squirting out. And of course, who's there but Gerard Mayo?
That is the 6th lost fumble this season by Cincinnati.
Look at that. The helmet of McCourty ends up right on the football, driving it right through and out the back.
And now Brady inside the 45 of the Bengals. Play fake. Gonna go for it all. Down the sideline. Incomplete. Batted down by Terrence Newman. Intended for Dobson.
Well, you can't play corner on a fade route any better than that. Terrence Newman, tremendous ball awareness, sees the football, gets his right hand on it, and knocks it away from Dobson. That was exactly how you're supposed to do it.
2nd and 10, 3:18 remaining in regulation. Brady, this shot, incomplete. Intended for Amendola. Chris Crocker was there.
It looks like Danny Amendola. It's a good throw from Brady, right on the hands. He's just not able to hold on to it. Crocker gets down around his legs. Tom Brady knows that was there. Amendola showing a little rust after missing 3 games.
3rd and 10.
Here they come.
Brady down at the 49-yard line. And Chris Crocker from the secondary into the backfield.
Mike Zimmer not playing cautiously. Crocker at the bottom of your screen, comes off the corner. He's unaccounted for. And Tom Brady loses his football, and I think it bounces right back to him. That's a fumble, and the ball hops right back up into his hands. That was a live football.
Brandon Tate deep. Almost blocked. Fair catch called for and made at about the 8 or 9-yard line.
Well, what a stand by the Bengals defensively. The rookie makes a monstrous mistake in putting the ball on the ground, and Mike Zimmer's team, what do? They don't give New England even a first down, and they sack Brady, forcing a punt.
And the rookie starts this series on the sideline. Ben Jarvis Green Ellis in the backfield for Cincinnati to start this set of downs.
Now Bill Belichick has all 3 timeouts plus the 2-minute warning here to use. So he will no doubt start using them in a hurry.
Ben Jarvis Green Ellis, the expatriate, across the 10 to about the 12-yard line. And we get a timeout call to stop the clock with 2:27.
Well, this is all New England can do. They'll have to use their time, but they do have the luxury of the 2-minute warning still to come. And of course, for the Bengals, what would they pay for a first down? Now, I will say this. Marvin Lewis showed that he was willing to gamble when they needed a first down before. They weren't afraid to go to the air. Remember, Andy Dalton bought a little time and checked it down to Giovanni Bernard.
And Dalton has been considerably more accurate today than he was a week ago. He took a lot of heat from that Cleveland loss last week.
Well, we'll see if the Bengals are still in a gambling mood, if they'll allow Dalton to attempt the pass play.
2nd and 7. Then Jarvis, Green, Ellis across the 15 to about the 17-yard line. And another timeout called by Bill Belichick.
You saw New England digging at the football there, and they better be careful. It's one thing to dig for the football, but you better get the tackle and force them into a punting situation as the rain really starts to come down now. You try to get the turnover, but you got to make the tackle. Dante Hightower there, instead of making he's really trying to rip out the football.
Football is in the other arm.
Yep. You hate to do that and have the guy end up breaking away and getting enough yardage for a first down. Because a first down here for the Bengals would be crippling.
3rd and 2.
Only one timeout left now for New England.
And they'll get the 2-minute warning. Let's see what Jay Gruden is calling on this. On the ground. Not going to get there. And the timeout is not called, not yet. No. They will let it click down to the 2-minute warning.
Bill Belichick willing to sacrifice 10 seconds to keep that timeout in the bank.
2 minutes remaining. Tom Brady looking for another comeback in his great career. Can he get it? The rain falling harder than it has all day can make for sloppy tackling and slippery footballs. Julian Edelman is deep. Kevin Huber to kick it away. Drives Edelman back to his own 26-yard line. Looking for the sideline and runs it out at about the 35. And here comes Brady. 38 career game-winning drives in the fourth quarter and overtime.
Well, initially, give some credit to Huber. That was a heck of a punt. He gained his team some valuable field position. Well, one timeout left for New England.
And once again, that Cincinnati defense being asked to make a stand. Short pass, incomplete, in and out of the hands of Brandon Bolden out of the backfield. We asked Tom Brady last night if he would use gloves in the event of rain. He said only on the left hand.
Well, to tell you the truth, that's better off being an incompletion than it is being a completed pass, because that would have been good for about 2 yards in the field of play and the clock would have kept running. They're better off that he dropped that ball, and it is just coming down in buckets.
5 straight incompletions thrown by Brady.
Just a 4-man rush here for Cincinnati.
Make that 6 straight. To Edelman, incomplete over the middle. Stops the clock with 1:40 to play.
Let's see if Tom has the ability to control this football. No, look at that ball come out of his hand. That ball slipped as he went to throw it. And this rain has come at the wrong time for the New England Patriots.
Patriots 1 of 11 on 3rd down. Looking at a 3rd and 10.
Mike Zimmer showed a lot of pressure the last possession. This time just straight 4-man rush.
Brady Throwing over the middle, that's complete to the 40-yard line to Bolden.
But the Bengals will give them that.
That's about 5 yards short of a first down. It'll be 4th and 5.
4th and 5, and Tom Brady calling the play. But again, a lot of time burning off here before they're able to get up to the ball. But you can't have a mistake on 4th and 5. You got to communicate.
A minute 10 to play. 4th down.
Go 50. Go 50.
Looks like Tom's changing. He's changing it with Cincinnati showing pressure.
Comes a blitz.
Oh, the Bengals are offside.
That pass is incomplete.
Chris Crocker. Chris Crocker was across the ball.
And that will give Brady and the Patriots a first
Oh,
down.
man.
Offside. Defense, number 92. That 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
Well, they call James Harrison, but Chris Crocker, number 32, is the player who's across the ball. Chris Crocker coming on the blitz off the edge, mistimes it, and ends up all the way across.
First down.
Yeah.
Boy, look at the rain coming in.
You know, not only did he give him a first down, it stops the clock.
First down in a pouring rain at the 46. Brady throwing this side of the field, and that's complete at about mid. No, incomplete. Did not keep possession all the way down.
And again, Edelman did him a favor by dropping that ball. Again, he just not able to put it away. And it wouldn't have been good for much of anything. So they were better off.
2nd and 10. Brady going to give this one straight ahead to Bolden.
Oh,
and Bolden!
Boy, the Cincinnati Bengals all of a sudden were standing around waiting for somebody else to make the tackle. And nobody told Bolden he was supposed to go down.
And New England uses its 3rd and final timeout with 33 seconds on the clock.
Greg, I am trying to think of the last time I had covered a football game where I saw it rain like this. But look at that. Nobody wrapped up. And Brandon Bolden just kept on running.
And Adam Jones with a saving tackle.
Well, Tom Brady, I know he'd like to keep that streak alive, but he'd like to win this game more. He wouldn't mind handing it off and let the guy run in for a touchdown. He'd like to be able to tie this thing up.
Welcome to the world's largest outdoor shower. New England now out of timeouts. From the Bengal 42.
Bengals showing only a 4-man rush.
Brady gonna go deep up the upper sideline. Look who was wide open up the middle. Aaron Dobson running free and clear.
Well, Dobson read the defense one way, and Tom Brady read it the other. Tom Brady is playing this, that he's going to run the corner route, and Dobson takes off and runs a post. Tom Brady threw it to the corner, and Dobson read it the other way and went in the post.
Brady, 1 for his last 9 throwing the ball. Half a minute to play. Sideline, bounced it.
And right now you can see Tom Brady is having a difficult time controlling the ball.
And we got a penalty marker in the backfield with that hit.
Personal foul, roughing the passer. Defense number 95, contact to the quarterback's helmet. 15-yard penalty, automatic. First down.
Wallace Gilberry cost the Bengals 15 yards.
They're going to say hit Brady in the helmet. Boy, his right hand slapped Tom Brady in the face as he went by. And even though he tried to hold him up,
Dan, remember you talked about the ability to finish. This is all part of finishing, isn't it?
Well, there's been 2 penalties, a roughing the passer and Crocker's offsides. Brady. Sideline. Tip.
Intercepted inside the 5.
Did that ball touch the ground?
Yes.
They're saying no, it's an interception.
Adam Jones.
The ball got popped up into the air. Adam Jones has it. It's up in the air and flat on his back. He keeps it off the ground. That's an INT. And again, look at the ball wobble off the hand of Tom Brady. This rainstorm completely disrupted Tom Brady's ability to throw the football. This ball is wobbling, woefully short, and Adam Jones keeps it off the ground for an interception.
And by the way, just as quickly, the heavy rain has stopped.
It has stopped, but the damage was done. We saw repeatedly the ball come off Tom Brady's hand, really funny and awkwardly.
Everybody's out of timeouts. Dalton takes a knee, and this game is over.
And the Bengals get the statement win that they so desperately needed. And Mike Zimmer's defense turned in one of the fine defensive efforts that they've had in many years.
Marvin Lewis said it would get better. It did. Andy Dalton was better throwing the football, and as you said, it was an outstanding defensive effort by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, they got an assist from the rain at the very end, but give them credit. That was just an outstanding piece of defensive work.
For the first time in his career, Tom Brady loses to the Cincinnati Bengals.
And that streak of 52 games comes to an end. And more importantly, the Patriots are knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten.
Our final score, the Bengals win it by a score of 13-6. Coming up next, Broncos and the Cowboys for Dan Deerdorf. And for all of us here on our CBS Sports crew in Cincinnati, Greg Gumbel saying so long from Paul Brown Stadium. The NFL Today update is coming up. We'll take you to New York for all of the scores and highlights after this.